The Laura Ingraham Show.
Listening to your healthy radio addiction, 855-40-LAURA. This was, first of all, I had forgotten about the song. I just found this today, and I remember this song from, ye oldie times. But it's a great song. Freddie Mercury had such a phenomenal voice. No one comes close today. And it's just, I hear Queen, I'm like, oh, come on. We need rock and roll back. We need some great voices in rock and roll. Phenomenal. Oh, well, Don't Stop Me Now. That could be a theme song for Trump. Maybe not all the lyrics in the song, but you understand what I'm saying here. We're broadcasting here at Fox Radio in New York, and delighted to be here. We have great guests coming up. We're going to be talking to David Axelrod, of course, who ran one of the most surprising and successful presidential campaigns the last 25 years. Yesterday we had Ed Rollins on, who ran one of the most successful campaigns on the Republican side, which was Reagan's 1984 re-election. So Ed was on yesterday. So it's great to have Axelrod on today. And yes, I'm collecting on my bet. Raymond, I think I bet him, and of course Raymond Arroyo's here, I think I bet him, this is my problem. I bet all this money on the election, and I can't remember who owes me money.
No, that's a problem.
Except I do know that Axelrod.
You do know you won.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I do know I won. But Axelrod, I think I bet him $2,500 or something like that for charity.
Oh.
Yeah, for charity.
I was thinking maybe I was getting a nicer gift this year.
Yeah, he's absolutely going to give it to a pro-life group. I mean, 100%. That's going to Little Sisters of the Poor, some great organization. But he said, I'll pay up. I kept betting people all the time. I'll bet you 100. I should have written it down. This is why I'm not good at money. Okay,
no, don't be a bookie.
No,
it'll never work.
No, but this is why I'm not good at money, because I actually would have made a lot of money. Because I bet 1,000 here, 1,000 there, and I started, a couple points. I was like, this is getting a little dicey here. Like, Maria, is there a child labor law that I have to worry about? Because we're all going to have to go to work, okay, to pay this off. But anyway, we have a lot to get to on the show. We're going to talk to Gergen. Also, Peter King's going to stop by. There are concerning developments on the terror front as we're going toward, of course, the long holiday weekend with Thanksgiving. New intel that the ISIS offshoots will be using or trying to use more vehicles in terror attacks, as that Nice truck that plowed through all of those people, of course, that night in the summer was just one of the most horrific terror attacks that Europe has experienced in the last 24 months or so. And so that's now considered. A lot of people with the migratory patterns in Europe and even here in the United States who might not be able to get weapons or might not even want to buy a weapon, but they can get a car, or they could get a license to drive a car, or they can become a truck driver, or maybe they're a driver for one of these ride sharing services, and that's a weapon. A car is a weapon, and our prayers, of course, go out to the horrific bus crash. I mean, my heart sunk when I saw that Tennessee bus crash. At least 5 children are gone, are dead. I mean, you think of these parents, Thanksgiving week. I mean, I was like shaken when I read that story. Horrible.
And
news.
The cop shootings all over the country.
Oh, we're going to get into that. The police have a target on their back because of the climate of fear, intimidation, and the racial polarity that exists in this country today. This is something that Obama leaves as a tainted legacy for the American people, where they had no problem coming out in Ferguson and Baltimore, but we don't hear enough from this administration on the issue of police and protecting the police and respect, just the attitude of respect to the police. So we didn't get into this sufficiently yesterday, Raymond, but we have to talk about that hideous Hadid woman and her trashing Melania Trump in that American Music Awards. We're going to talk about that, too. So we're going to throw all these topics out there. We're also going to hit the sex education curriculum that is happening in elementary schools today, which I'm digging into for a variety of reasons. And I found out a whole bunch of stuff that is going to curl your hair. And we got to talk about what we're doing to our little babies, our little innocent children, turning them into kids who before they're even 10 or maybe 11 have to learn about what is described as gender morphing, and that gender really isn't gender anymore. I mean, these kids just want to like run around and play and learn and have a good time, and now it's just too much. All these topics are on the table, and it's Thanksgiving. So
yeah, we got to ask Meg Meeker.
Yeah.
How do you deal with the combative Thanksgiving dinner table?
Oh no, this is going to be
because
ugly.
this is going to be
no.
a mess out there.
This is going to
I mean,
be.
you think things are ugly outside? Wait till you get inside this Thanksgiving.
This is
some families are just
no. Well, I mean, family members have not been speaking.
Yeah,
for
I know.
Many months, and now, well, I'll just say this: on my street where I live, I have great neighbors, and I have
My Fair Lady,
and I have on my street,
on the street where you live.
Yeah, exactly. So I have great neighbors, and some of them are very liberal, but they're good friends. And I was walking the dogs the other morning, and it was cold, and I had my hood up and everything, and I saw one of my neighbors. And I'm not going to say his name, but I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And I said, "Oh, the election." And he said, "Yeah, well," and he's a super guy. And I said, "Well, now you know how we felt." I said, "Well, how do you think we felt in 2008? And then in 2012? This is how we felt. Well, we didn't ruin our whole day. I mean, it was just, it was unpleasant. But then he said, well, it's not the same." I said, because Trump's apparently such a horrible person. He didn't say that, but I could kind of get that.
Well, there's good reason that people in D.C. feel that way, Laura, because, as the front of the Washington Post tells us today, Trump takes aim at federal workers. He's going to impose hiring freezes, end automatic raises, a green light to fire poor performers, a ban on union business on the government's dime, and less generous pensions. So this is why the Beltway bandits are very upset. I understand.
They want to be able to be at the trough. Now, my neighbor's he's a lawyer, and he doesn't really do stuff with the government stuff, but you're right about the actual bureaucratic mindset.
There's a
the government
pall of depression around D.C., Virginia, Maryland.
Fewer cranes, perhaps. The cranes. Raymond and I always say there's something wrong when there's no heavy industry in Washington, but there are cranes everywhere. Cranes. There's no factories, but there are cranes. They're building in neighborhoods they're building, and they're charging $3,000 for a studio apartment on 14th Street where the hookers used to line up. And I'm thinking, okay, well, what is this for? Because government continues to have an outsized influence on our lives, and it continues to grow, and the lobbyists continue to grow. And, the law firms are actually shrinking because people are pinching their pennies when it comes to law firms and legal bills, which I love, by the way. But the government continues to grow. Trump comes in, and we'll play some sound later on from this video message he did. But I love the fact that he decides to go around the media, go right to YouTube, and say, basically, here's what I'm thankful for, all the things we're about to do. We're out of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. We're going to do bilateral trade agreements that we can change if we need to. If they're not working out the way they're supposed to work out, we're going to have a ban on lobbying. You can't lobby for 5 years if you work in my executive branch. You can't ever represent a foreign government, right? He goes through point by point. We're going to have an energy revolution. And he goes through all the things that he basically said in the campaign. I think people are complaining he didn't mention building the wall. Oh, he's going to build the wall. It's going to be double fencing, wall in some parts. That's going to get done. I mean, one thing we know about Trump, he knows how to build stuff. But he goes right to the people, and I find it refreshing. We're going to talk about this meeting and.
Yeah, there was a meeting yesterday. We got to tell people. There was a meeting yesterday at 1 o'clock, and they convened the heads of various news organizations, presidents, Jeff Zucker from CNN, Bill Shine from Fox News. They had the heads of NBC and CBS, and their anchors, Martha Raddatz, George Stephanopoulos, Gayle King, Wolf Blitzer. This was David Muir. This was really like it felt like the White House Correspondents' Dinner. They were all trucking into Trump Tower. Everybody went up to meet in a boardroom, and I don't think it was quite the meeting they intended.
Well, David, we don't have that soundbite, but we'll play this David Drucker. Is that David Drucker from MSNBC this morning? Is he talking about the media meeting, boys? Okay, we'll play that later. But this was written about like it was World War III. Like, it was Blanking firing squad.
Right, that's the headline of the New York Post. It was a blanking firing squad, this media summit. It says, Donald Trump scolded media big shots during an off-the-record Trump Tower sit-down on Monday, sources told the Post. Well, now, how did the Post find out? Because the people who were off the record decided to tell them. Trump started with CNN chief Jeff Zucker and said, I hate your network. Everyone at CNN is a liar. And you should be ashamed. You should be ashamed.
And he's an old friend of his, Jeff Zucker.
Oh, yeah.
He's known him for years and years and years.
This source said the meeting was a total disaster. The TV execs and anchors went in thinking they'd be discussing access they'd get during the Trump administration.
Lots of access.
But instead, they got a Trump-style dressing down.
Oh, no. How many of you think that was a good idea to bring the how many think it's a good idea to bring the press in and dress them down? What do you accomplish by doing
30
that?
to 40 of them around the table. Big anchors,
Did they
heads
get
of the
water?
networks.
Bread and water? Did they get bread and water?
I don't know.
There?
He kept saying, this is the quote in the New York
Bannon,
Post.
the waterboarding begins now. Bring in the waterboarding.
Trump kept saying, quote, we're in a room full of liars, the deceitful, dishonest media. Who got it all wrong? You got it all wrong. Wrong.
Not nice.
He addressed everyone in the room, calling the media dishonest, deceitful liars. He called out Jeff Zucker by name and said everyone at CNN was a liar and that CNN was a network of liars.
Okay, wait a second. He also went after MSNBC or NBC, but he didn't. I don't think he remembered that reporter's name. He never remembers her name.
Katie Tur, who they clashed with before he would call her out from the podium when he was on the trail.
Right.
And he said. Trump, this is what the article says, Trump didn't say NBC reporter Katie Kerr by name, but talked about an NBC female correspondent who got it all wrong. Then he referred to a horrible network correspondent who cried when Hillary lost, who hosted a debate, which was Martha Raddatz, who was also in the room where it happened.
They were in the room when it happened. Okay.
I guess.
To go back to Hamilton. And then we have Hamilton updates. We don't want to spoil all of our
but we're going to get to that.
Okay, so we'll start with this. Number one, was it a good idea for Trump to bring in these 30 or 40 media people and just, I mean, again, I wasn't there. I don't know what was said. I'm just seeing these dribs and drabs of reporting. He wasn't yelling. That was wrong when they said he was never yelling. But he just basically, it wasn't about access. It was, you guys were all wrong. I'm on to you, or something like that. Was there a point to that? Or do you just kick the hornet's nest more with the media? Or does he care? I mean, and then he was supposed to have a meeting with the New York Times, correct?
Right, today.
Which and that's canceled.
He canceled it by Twitter.
By Twitter. So the good thing is you don't have to use email or phones anymore. You just tweet right to them, no, we're not doing it. And apparently he says the rules were changed. New York Times says the rules weren't changed. The ground rules weren't. Some was on the record, some was off the record. But the New York Times, in my view, is irrelevant. Kind of, in some ways, to what's happening now. I mean, I think you could work. The New York Times has some really good reporters. I think they do some great work. They have. They started the whole email investigation. Remember, they kicked off that whole email investigation. So I don't think that you can't paint with a completely broad brush with the media. There are some really talented reporters who have done really great work. But I also think America's now in a new place where they're receiving news and they're receiving information much more directly. That's a threat to the media, and I understand it. I get it. But technology is changing. As they always like to tell people, technology is changing, and I guess approaches have to change too. I don't know, but
there had to be more. Here's my only question as I read this. It was an hour-long meeting. More than that had to have happened.
Yeah, I don't think it's
it can't just have been a dressing down.
No. All right, we'll take a break. 855-40-LAURA. Should he have dressed down the media behind closed doors? And his video message to the country. We'll get into that. Don't go away.
I would like to provide the American people with an update on the White House transition and our policy plans for the first 100 days. Our transition team is working very smoothly, efficiently, and effectively. Truly great and talented men and women, patriots indeed, are being brought in, and many will soon be a part of our government, helping us to make America great again.
That was Trump's video message to the American people, and he basically laid out what he intends to do and who's going to be always first in his mind.
My agenda will be based on a simple core principle, putting America first. Whether it's producing steel, building cars, or curing disease, I want the next generation of production and innovation to happen right here on our great homeland, America, creating wealth and jobs for American workers.
I love this song. This is like this 70s, right? Ain't no stopping us. McFadden and Whitehead, right? No, this is like one of those. Yeah, you like get the leisure suit on, right? You're walking, you hear the strut, big old collar, Raymond. Did your dad ever wear a leisure suit?
No.
Put your mic on.
No, he did not wear a leisure suit. I don't remember. He wore big, huge 747 collars, though. I mean, they were spread collars that went on to Iowa. They were spread so wide, yeah.
Remember George Jefferson on The Jeffersons once bought a leisure suit? It was one of the funniest episodes of The Jeffersons. Oh, you don't remember this?
No.
It was one of the funniest episodes of The Jeffersons. He came home with the leisure suit, and Florence, the housekeeper, like, what you wearing? Like that looks at it was, oh my God, it's one of those were the most, did we ever determine who came up with the leisure suit, by the way?
No, but they were horrible.
Oh, no.
All I remember is Sinatra in that powder blue leisure suit.
Oh, the worst.
Awful.
That's like one image of Sinatra you never want to see again.
There's
oh, my
a special
gosh,
where he's
horrible.
all in that outfit. Terrible.
Let's go to John in Utah. This is our swan song before Thanksgiving. We're going to have a wide-ranging discussion. David Axelrod's going to stop by. Johnny, go ahead.
Hey, I just wanted to say that I noticed that they don't want to come up with
John
the money
said we
for
ought to use
the
a
wall.
GoFundMe page to pay for the wall. For some reason, we're not hearing our callers. The reality show will be really good, though, Raymond, right? When we actually do the reality show on the radio show, it'll be great. It'll be much more interesting than anything else.
This isn't it?
Right. This is the yes,
okay.
It is. Technology breakdowns, basic things not working. So now you know what happens is when one phone line doesn't work, you're afraid to go to the next phone line. It's like you're afraid. It's like the operation game.
Don't be afraid.
Don't be afraid, Laura. No. All right, we'll take a break. We'll get to the calls. We got Axelrod coming up. And Trump lays out his agenda by going right to the American people. Do you want to see him do more of this? And should he have brought the media behind closed doors to give them a bit of a lecture? Don't go away.
Ethics reform, as part of our plan to drain the swamp, we will impose a 5-year ban on executive officials becoming lobbyists after they leave the administration, and a lifetime ban on executive officials lobbying on behalf of a foreign government. These are just a few of the steps we will take to reform Washington and rebuild our middle class. I will provide more updates in the coming days as we work together to make America great again for everyone, and I mean everyone.
That was something. There's a video statement that has just rocketed around the internet, of course, on YouTube, on the lobbying ban. I think, you know who I think originally was talking about that was Wendy Long, who was unsuccessful in her bid against Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer's a New York powerhouse, but nevertheless, Wendy was pushing that 5-year ban, and so that was cool. And it's cool to see Trump pick that up. And a lot of people make a lot of money when they leave government, and I understand a lot of them take pay cuts to work in government, but I think that's right in line with the Drain the Swamp message, and you have to keep doing that kind of stuff. What do you think about this approach to go right to the people and do an end run, in some cases, around the media? Let's not forget Barack Obama was very good at doing this and using social media, the White House website, cultural events. He did lots of interviews with YouTube sensations, people who are not traditional media folks. And that frustrated a lot of reporters. But it seems like it's a fever pitch right now. Joining us now, I'm delighted he's with us, of course, from the University of Chicago. Has his own great podcast called The Axe Files, which I'm soon going to be on. And, of course, ran one of the most successful presidential campaigns in modern history with his work for the Obama campaign. And he joins us now, David Axelrod. David, how are you? Good to talk to you.
Hey, my friend, good to talk to you. Before we do anything, let me say I owe you, and I am going to pay my debt. And I heard your pitch for food for the poor, and I will match your donation if that's where you want me to put it. But it sounds like a good place to go.
It is. They're great. They do great work. But I think, wasn't it more than $1,000, David? I thought it was $2,500.
No,
wasn't it $2,500?
Oh, no.
Was it only $1,000?
I think we did it in front of an audience.
Oh, shucks. I thought it was $2,500. That's all right. Well.
But you know, I mean, if you up yours, I'll up mine, I guess is how.
Well, first of all, that wasn't the deal. The deal was a straight old bet. But I give a lot of money away anyway, so I'm happy to have you give to Food for the Poor. That's good. Okay, we settled it. Food for the Poor. David Axelrod is going to give his donation to Food for the Poor, and you got to write in the notation on the check though, David. You have to write 2016 bet. Okay.
I will.
2016
I will.
Bet. You got to take a photo of it and send it to me.
I am humbled, and I will do it.
Oh, well, it's great. It's great to have you on. So let's talk about where we are now with the press and the president elect, because a lot of people are all upset about this closed door meeting. It was initially reported as a big blow up. Now on MSNBC, it looks like we find out that it wasn't a blow up. Trump wasn't yelling at anybody, and he's known Jeff Zucker for 20 years, known him for a long, long time. But what do you make of that maneuver by Trump?
Well, I have no problem with him calling in news executives. That happens a lot in White Houses, where anchors or news executives come in for off-the-record sessions, and sometimes they can be contentious. I don't think you have to raise your voice for it to be contentious, and I don't think it's a big mystery that he has his issues with the media, because all you have to do is read his Twitter feed to know that. So none of that, to me, was very shocking. Nor is it shocking that he's using YouTube and other devices to speak directly to his supporters and the American people, because that's modern communications. I think where he's going to run into some stiff criticism is not submitting to questions on the record, and he's going to have to do that. I mean, he's not going to have to do it, but I think the more he doesn't do it, the more criticism he's going to get, and we'll see if the American people care about that. But part of being president is submitting yourself to scrutiny, whether it's in a press conference or an interview, and I mean, I hope that he does some of that. Maybe you will have influence. I read everywhere you're going to be a big administration official. So
you have to remember.
This is why I wanted to be on this show today. I wanted to get in under the wire before you submitted yourself for public service.
All right. Well, I say this: don't believe everything you read. Everything's in flux, and there's important cabinet positions to determine before they do anything else. Let's talk about the press though, because I remember, and I'm sure you remember as well, there was a lot of folks were not happy that President Obama went months and months and months without having a press conference.
Yes, that was true.
Remember that? And then the last couple of months of the campaign, Mrs. Clinton hardly did any interviews, any sit-downs with anybody. Right. And the press was not happy about it, but it wasn't I don't think it was the kind of drumbeat and the threats to democracy it's being portrayed now with Trump, who I think he sat down with Leslie Stahl. He did that interview on 60 Minutes. I think he's just saying, look, if you're a fair journalist and you treat me fairly, and even if you're tough, you're fair, that's fine. But if you become an advocate for a particular point of view, then you no longer are really a journalist. You're an advocate and will be treated as such. That's where I think he is on this.
These are of course subjective things, though. I mean, what one person's hard-nosed reporter is another person's advocate. You know what I mean? So it's hard to judge. But the thing that seemed to have ticked him off, that led to a barrage of anti-New York Times tweets this morning, were the tweets about his business and potential conflicts of interest, which I think, Laura, you and I probably will disagree on this, but it is a concern. It is a concern when you're dealing with people, other governments, as an example, and you have commercial interests in a country, and they have influence potentially over those commercial interests. That's a concern.
Right.
So I don't know how he's going to deal with that, but you can't kind of create your own little swamp while you're draining the swamp.
Well, I think that first of all, I was speaking to a former attorney general about this the other day, we just happened to run into him on the plane, and Bill Barr, and he said, well, most people on television don't know that there is actually no federal law that Trump would be breaking if he continued his business interests and his family ran the businesses. The problem is a political problem. No, let me just finish. The problem is a political problem. It's a political problem. It's a perception problem, potentially. That's the problem. But there is no, unless you have a real quid pro quo, which is, again, what Hillary tried to argue, then there's no ethical rule that says you can't do this. And you go through the ethics in government statute, and you see that in fact that's the case. Well, Bill Barr is one of the smartest people I know, so I started looking into it. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. But nevertheless, you are right. There's always the perception issue which has to be dealt with, and all I'll say about that is the press should deal with this with the same intensity or lack thereof that they dealt with Mrs. Clinton. At the State Department, when the foundation was dealing with all these foreign governments, giving Mongo checks, then they got access to meet with her. That actually happened, and a lot of the press kind of yawned about it. So I think we'll see what they do with whether it's a blind trust or an independent trustee or the family. But we know this: it's going to have to be transparent, and transparency is going to be key in this, I think.
Yeah, I mean, you're right that there's no law. The president is uniquely, and the vice president, for that matter, are uniquely kind of exempt from the kinds of ethics rules that apply to cabinet members and other appointees. But that should not be the standard. The standard should not be whether or not someone broke a law. The standard should be whether it comports with the kind of ethical standards that you said you'd bring to Washington. And you ought to live by the same standards that you're going to apply to others. So, we'll see how this all works out. But that was what apparently ticked him off. And look, I mean, I'm going to say this: if he, having been there, you have to have a very thick skin to be president of the United States, and criticism is as American as apple pie. And I bring that up because Thanksgiving's coming, and happy Thanksgiving, by the way. But and one has to be able to deal with that. And if you chase every comment that you don't like, that's a full-time job right there. So I think he's going to have to toughen up here and understand that it is the job of the media to cast a critical eye at government, at the president, and all of the other officers of government. And if he has to live with that, or if he doesn't, it's going to be a very uncomfortable 4 years for him. You
do remember when Brett Baer did that 2010 interview with Barack Obama, and Baer brought up the point of whether it's a tax, definition of a tax. He got, President Obama got very snippy.
Right.
And he many times got very snippy about Fox News, kind of scoffing and laughing at cable news, laughing or scoffing at talk radio. So I think there are many occasions that I could point to where Barack Obama had very thin skin, and I think people kind of forget about that. He got a lot of glowing coverage in the first 100 days. I mean, Brian Williams was practically spooning with him in the back of the limousine when he went to Five Guys Burger Place.
I saw you talk about this on Fox this morning.
Yeah, I mean, pretty cozy.
I think that there have been moments when he's been peevish in response to the media, but I think his skin grew thicker as time went on because he came to understand that just comes with the territory. I'm just telling you, this isn't even meant in the form of a criticism. It's an observation.
No, I think you do have to have a thick skin. Everyone. And David, I know this has happened to you. We're talking to David Axelrod. Is that people say stuff? It doesn't bother me at all. I mean, when people say something like really outrageous or, is a Nazi, it's like, oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's exactly, what I to me, it's like I always say, consider the source, and it doesn't bother me. I have a very, very thick skin. And
I wouldn't know about that because nobody ever says anything unkind about me, but I'll take your word for it.
Never.
Hey, so on this issue of Nazis,
let
me ask you a question. I understand, this was a kind of ragtag group in Washington, a small group of people.
Oh, that National Policy Institute video? I saw it for the first time this morning.
But
is that what you're talking about? That
I know
NPR?
that. I know. I mean, Donald Trump has his son-in-law is an Orthodox Jew. His daughter converted, so
his Jewish grandchildren, of course.
Yeah, of course. So why not just use 140 characters and say that these views are despicable, and I thoroughly renounce them and don't want anything to do with them. I know he had someone come and make a statement yesterday, but wouldn't it be good for him to do that? Why wouldn't he do that?
Well, I mean, I don't know if he wants to do that. That's fine with me. I don't have any problem with it. But I also think you can get yourself in this situation where any fringe organization who says something outrageous then is an occasion for you to prostrate yourself in front of the media. And that's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. They want to keep this kind of whole thing going. So when a kid with a Trump hat gets beaten up, we don't really have to hear anything from Hillary or the Democrats or President Obama. Or when the people are blocking access to major thoroughfares and have Rape Melania on a sign, I don't hear President Obama coming out and saying everybody,
actually, I remember just to take issue with you a little here. Late in the campaign, I remember at a rally when some people were getting nasty with a Trump protester at an Obama rally, and he dressed the crowd down.
Yeah, well, I saw that one occasion, but I do have to say that there's plenty of nastiness to go around that we've heard scant outrages from the administration. David Axelrod, it's always great to talk to you. Happy Thanksgiving. Stay with us. Looks like Trump will not be seeking any further investigation from the executive branch, at least, into the Clinton Foundation, the private email server. There are a lot of folks still in the Justice Department, I believe, or the FBI, excuse me, who are still looking into the Clinton Foundation. So that's all just shut down now? Well, I think a lot of people are wondering, does that conflict, this is the sense I'm getting from Twitter, does that conflict with the Drain the Swamp message? Because it's Hillary Clinton, and last names shouldn't shield you from inquiry. Or is it the right way to turn the page for the country? Focus on what's best for the country now, because anything you do with Hillary will look political. Raymond Arroyo is with us. We're going to talk to Peter King in just a few moments. And we're tearing it up on LifeZet. You got to go to lifezet.com. If you didn't hear that Gergen interview I did yesterday with David Gergen, you scroll down on the LifeZet page and you can listen to what he accused me of reading from the Media Matters talking points that his research assistant had just handed him. It's a pretty good interview. You want to check that out. Go ahead, Ray.
My feeling on this Hillary Clinton thing is this. Remember during the campaign when people would yell out, lock her up,
right.
Trump said, no. We're going to deliver justice to her on November 8th. That was his election. So maybe that is the curtain and enough. I mean, let's face it. The woman is gone from public life.
Right.
She's not going to be able to return. I mean, even the Democrats, and I don't think she's going to be doing too many headlines. She is now the Mitt Romney of the Democratic Party. I don't think she's going to be doing much in the way of leading a coalition.
But to play devil's advocate, why should she get away with it?
Well, if she did something illegal, then it's up to Congress and officials to pursue that.
Right.
But the FBI did review all the emails. They did go into Huma's server. They haven't turned up anything. So unless they turn something up,
they weren't. Remember, and this was someone reminding me of this yesterday or the day before. Remember what happened? The Justice Department refused to convene a grand jury, which compels testimony. It compels testimony and compels the production of evidence. That's where you could have immediately seized the server, immediately seized computers, and the inquiry done by a grand jury could probably have gotten to the issue of intent and everything. Could have moved toward that issue of intent. That was stonewalled by Loretta Lynch. Clearly, Loretta Lynch put the kibosh on that. So there was no. The way to do immunity, you usually do immunity through the grand jury process. That wasn't done here. And so we had these odd grantings of immunity to like Cheryl Mills and stuff. But I was always concerned that if Trump stayed on this, it would look like a political deal, not a law and order deal. Obama should have made sure this was handled properly. He's the one who fell down on the job. But now if Trump comes in as president, prosecuting the woman that you defeated in the election seems
it looks like you're using the
even
system.
If it's not.
Right, exactly.
Even if it's not, the appearance of it does not look good.
And that's probably why he's saying he's not going to do this.
So, Kellyanne Conway actually, did she address this, guys? Yeah, let's listen.
Donald Trump's not going to be pursuing investigations against Hillary, and the administration's going to. Do you think he'll encourage Republicans on the Hill to stay away from that as well and focus more on their legislative agenda?
I think when the president-elect, who's also the head of your party now, Joe, tells you before he's even inaugurated he doesn't wish to pursue these charges, it sends a very strong message, tone and content to the members. And I think Hillary Clinton still has to face the fact that a majority of Americans don't find her to be honest or trustworthy. But if Donald Trump can help her heal, then perhaps that's a good thing.
If Donald Trump can help her heal, well, maybe it looks better for him not to do it. I don't really have a strong opinion about it. I was on I was on Fox News Sunday or something, and that's what I would recommend, not pursuing it. And I know people are going to slam me for this, but you have a lot to do to turn this country around. There is an enormous amount that has to be done at the border and these trade deals, all this regulatory morass that Obama is, by the way, he's still growing the regulatory morass. He's still feeding the beast of the regulatory machine until the last second of the last moment where Donald Trump takes the oath of office. Oh, I'm going to enjoy that. I'm going to enjoy looking at Obama and enjoy seeing Michelle because they're going to look so great. They're going to look terrific on that podium, on that platform right in front of the Capitol. The scaffolding is off the Capitol. They've cleaned the Capitol. It looks so bright and shiny. And
yeah, but there's a big change here that we're going to see that we haven't seen in years. A new family comes into the White House, and the old family stays in D.C. There's no helicopter to take them away or plane ride. They stay in town.
I was looking forward to that. Couldn't we just fly them to their new house? I want the helicopter. I want the helicopter to fly away, Birdie. Fly, fly, fly away.
I don't think you're going to get that.
No, they're going to still...
because Sasha is continuing her high school career. So Michelle and Barack Obama will remain residents of Washington, D.C., even as Donald Trump moves in.
Is he going to be on the panels, like the Sunday panels? Like, is Chuck Todd going to say, hey, Mr. President, want to come on the panel? I mean, you get the sense that he's just not going to stop talking.
No.
And this
is not going to be George W.
Bad.
Bush.
Well, let me tell you what, Raymond, not to take it to your area of expertise, it's like two popes. Got Benedict, and you have old, what's his name?
Now, this is a great book. You got two presidents, two popes, and they both are back-channeling the others. Now, that would be a great story.
Maybe, yeah. Well, I think I'd have a feeling that Trump and Benedict would be they'd be in some kind of confab, and then Obama and Francis, they'd be doing their Mr. Trump tear down this wall deal. How tall is that Vatican wall, Raymond? How tall is it?
I think it's 50 feet.
That's a big one, right?
Yeah, and it's a series of walls. You know, they weren't built all at once. They were built over time. But someone tweeted you, it's not a contiguous wall. In fact, it is a contiguous wall. It's a contiguous wall that runs all the way around, and there are three gates.
Yeah, that to get in.
3 gates to get in. That's it.
But he didn't Pope Francis talk about no walls, just bridges?
Yes.
Well, I want a big old bridge into that papal apartment. A bridge right from the airport. The Rome International go right to the papal
from the Michelangelo airport.
Michelangelo right to the papal apartment.
Okay, the Santa Marta house.
I thought that apartment was pretty snazzy. They were saying that apartment was kind of a low rent deal. That's a pretty snazzy apartment he's living in.
I pulled the pictures the other day because there was a journalist who's written an article lauding Pope Francis for not staying in the sumptuous overly luxurious.
Where Benedict stayed in and John Paul, yeah.
And they were literally it was a twin bed in the corner next to a bookshelf with like a screen. You know when you're in college and you put a screen up, there's you don't have enough money for a wall, so you put a screen up.
Yeah.
That's what John Paul had in the corner. But he did his work like next to his bed. It was far from sumptuous. In fact, if you look at the pictures online of Pope Francis's rooms, he's got the big mahogany four-poster and the sunken marble. I'd rather stay there.
Who am I to judge, Raymond?
No, I say the same thing.
Mark in Kansas, line 3. We'll get into the press deal, the dressing down the press, the canceling the New York Times. He's hightailing it down to Mar-a-Lago today. He's taking the whole crew down to Mar-a-Lago. So now the press is he's going to Mar-a-Lago for Thanksgiving. Was he going to hang around a Trump Tower here? I don't think so. He's going down there. Marky, go ahead, my friend.
Hi, Laura. Happy Thanksgiving. Since you had Raymond there with you today, I wanted to call and tell you both how you really helped me through a real difficult time in my life a few years ago.
Tell us.
I own a small business here in Kansas. I own a small business here in Kansas, and my wife came to me and said, you're just not bringing in enough money. And so I had to go get a second job, and I'd go in at 3 in the morning and load trucks at one of the package handling places. And I'd come out about 9 and go to my second job, my business. And I got a copy of the Obama Diaries on audio from the library. And I'd drive around making sales, trying to bring in new business. And I'd listen to the Obama Diaries, and I'd just howl with laughter. And it kept me going at a very difficult time through the laughter. And then I was really happy to hear MR from Washington call in a couple times during this past election cycle. And I just wanted to tell you and Raymond how much I appreciate all you guys do, and you help people in ways you might not ever know.
That is one of the nicest. I think that is one of the nicest calls. And Mark, God bless you.
Well, Mark, stay on the line.
Stay on the line.
Guys, get Mark's address, because I'm going to send Mark some other audiobooks since you're driving around. But my Christmas Time in New Orleans CD, which just came out on Verve,
you're going to love this, Mark.
Which is a jazz 18-piece orchestra.
You're going to
love it during the holidays. So I'm sending that to you, Mark.
Mark, stay on hold. Okay, are you still doing the 2 jobs? How's it going now?
No, I worked at the package handling for about 8 months, and business turned around a little bit. The bills are getting paid. The kids are getting fed. And things are looking up.
God bless you.
You see that? I
Mark,
have to tell you, Mark.
This is like a Walton special. This is like the homecoming.
Mark, I have to tell you, you are an example of the American spirit. And I hope others are listening, and maybe they were where you are, and realize, it does get better if you keep working at it.
It does get better.
And the importance of family and trying to fulfill your duties. This is what America is all about, the opportunity, even in hardship. And it's hard many days. For us, too, Mark, I'll have to tell you.
It's hard for us,
those moments come, but not like what you're going through. And God bless you. I'm delighted that we could bring a little joy into your day.
Well, Mark, I have to say, aren't you surprised at how much of what we did in the Obama Diaries, and there were serious parts of the Obama Diaries, then there were fictional diaries, but how much of it turned out to have more than a grain of truth in it?
Oh, well, you guys have your finger on the pulse, and it was so great. And like I said, I just listened to it, and I just howl with laughter, and I say, you know what, I'm going to my next call, and I'm just going to put a smile on my face, and I'm going to keep plugging along.
Awesome. Mark, have a great Thanksgiving with your family. God bless. Say hey to your wife for us. And you just keep listening. I really appreciate that. That's going to make me feel
made my
good.
Thanksgiving.
That made my whole Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Mark.
We'll take a break. 855-40-LAURA. We're going to do Thanksgiving horror stories. That's coming up. Meg Meeker's going to join us. The sexual education of our children in schools, both public and private. Who's pushing what agenda? You're going to be shocked at what we tell you. And a lot more coming up. Don't go away. Raymond Arroyo, we'll get to all your calls. Thanksgiving horror stories backed by popular demand. What about those Thanksgivings that just didn't go the way you planned? And we've heard stories from people who've backed into their garage door. They thought they had opened the door, delivering groceries. Of course, ovens that exploded, no injuries. People who leave the giblets in the turkey with the plastic wrapping around them.
I did that one year, and I just then pulled it out and fed everybody.
And you fed everyone. It's like toxic chemicals. Don't worry about that. Yeah. Other things, people making exotic meats for Thanksgiving, deciding to forego the traditional turkey for something, let's say, like a pheasant or quail or even a goose, and what happens in the cooking process. So we'll get to all of those. We're going to get to your calls, though, and I'm in such a good mood. I'm in a great mood. We're going into Thanksgiving holiday. So much to be thankful for. Hova in Florida on line 6 is a Syrian immigrant. Hova, welcome. Hova. Okay, James.
Hello.
Yeah. Okay, Hova, go ahead. Thank you.
Hey, Hawaii. Thank you. Three different special requests for the patriotic heroine, Laura Ingraham. First one, of course, I would like you to tell the snowflakes and the progressives that this 16-year-old immigrant, when I came to the United States, what I want is not what they're telling me, that while they're going out and protesting and rushing freeways and traumatizing people and causing all kinds of medical and economic hardships to people of all skin tones. You know, tell them to stop beating up people, tell them to stop ambushing people going to work and dragging them out of the car and then ripping off their car. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the second thing, of course, you need to pick up the torch for our Superman president-elect. The one, he should be the hero for the progressives, because he's an outsider that came in and took off the DNC and RNC establishment, took on the Clinton criminal enterprise, took on the Soros games of buying and everything. So I do want to make sure of that, and also, of course, these Americans need to start learning that there's double-digit Islamic countries that wouldn't even let you go and buy any land or have any
Bingo.
rights. Even you can't even find a one landowner in many of the Arabian Peninsula.
We got to get to all the calls, but I appreciate that, Hova, especially from a Syrian immigrant. Wake up, America. Realize the way the world it really is, not the way in some utopian understanding we think it is. Great call. Let's go to Mike in Colorado, line 8, on how Trump is dealing with the media. Mike, welcome. Happy Thanksgiving.
Hi, Laura. How you doing today?
I'm great, thank you.
Hey, I love that Trump is turning the media upside down, the TV networks. I am so proud of him. I've been on the Trump train since the beginning. I think the TV networks need somebody like Trump to tell them that they are upside down, they're wrong, they're all liberal, biased. You know, they tend to lean on the left no matter what they report. And I am so proud of Trump, the way he is. I hope that he does not have an interview with anybody on TV. I want him to keep doing what he's doing with his own videos. He does not need the media to react to the people. He can do it on his own.
I appreciate
the internet.
Gotcha. Got your point. Very interesting. Let's go to Duncan in Missouri, line 7. You want Trump to have press conferences with the media to get his message out. Duncan, very quickly.
Hey, Laura. Good morning. Hello. Are you there?
Yes. Go ahead. Really quickly.
This Duncan, 47, generational grass, beef, and sheep farmer. Trump does not need the media to filter his message. I just want him to tell it what he thinks, what's in his heart, and leave it to me to agree or disagree with it.
Very interesting point. Well, I think people are tired of a biased media. It's fine to be fair and tough, but you have to be that way with all people without regard to a political agenda. And every poll shows that people don't trust the media today. Stay with us. Up next, Peter King. You know, this is what the left does, and he's part of the left. What the left does is they seek to demonize and brand conservatives as the untouchables, the untouchables, the irredeemables, just like Hillary said. They're deplorable because you believe the border should be enforced, ipso facto, you're anti-immigrant. Because you believe that we should appoint people based on merit, not based on a color-coded scheme, which is apparently what he wants. Oh, well, they need some diverse. Is it diversity or diversity, Raymond? What is the right? Isn't it diversity?
Diversity.
Why does he say diversity?
Well, people always hit the wrong emphasis at times.
Emphasis, okay. I'm not wild about diversity. But isn't diversity in a lot of different things where you come from, your personal experience, diversity in approach to problem solving? There's a lot of ways to measure diversity. Joining us now, love him, Congressman Peter King, of course, he's from New York's 2nd District, and one of the most, I think, courageous congressmen in addressing the problem of Islamic jihadism, and speaks truth to power on how we have to be honest with what we're up against, especially during these holiday times where you're going to have the Macy's Day Parade. New York's on high alert. There's people everywhere in the corners. There's high alert in New York City. It seems like it, at least. And Congressman King joins us now. Congressman, great to talk to you. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing fine, Laura. I really am. Good to talk to you. And it's good to see you on election night that time at the Trump headquarters.
That was fun. That was a lot of fun. So let's talk about what the left is seeking to do to almost every individual who is named or whose name is floated to work in the administration. I mean, there are very few people who are escaping this innuendo and these, as I said on Fox News Sunday, these blithe comments about race or gender or a misogynist. They've done it to Jeff Sessions. They've done it to Steve Bannon. And they're seeking now to, I think, malign Rudy Giuliani. But what do you think in general and then specifically about the Giuliani issue?
I think they're out to destroy anyone that Donald Trump recommends, nominates, talks about, invites over to New Jersey or to Trump Tower. The anger that was that's been coming since Election Day is even worse than the bias they showed before Election Day. And whatever Donald Trump does, I mean, either he's going too slow on the transition, he's going too fast on the transition. He's not seeing enough people. He's seeing too many people. I mean, no matter what he does. And the beauty of it is Donald Trump doesn't seem to care. And that's what I love about this the most, the fact that he is not taking any nonsense from the media. He's not doesn't really care about the elite. He's doing what he has to do. And he and Mike Pence are a great team.
And what about the concern about Rudy Giuliani that some people were raising at state? It looks like he might be considered for Director of National Intelligence. But what about, would you be fine with him at the State Department?
Absolutely. I would be fine with Rudy Giuliani in any position. State Department, DNI. I've known Rudy for years. He is as smart and as capable and as tough as anyone I know, and he's able to cut right to the guts of an issue. And again, he's not going to back down. He's the guy that saved New York City. He's the guy who, again, it really, in many ways, was the heart and soul of the Trump campaign. I mean, obviously Donald Trump was, but other than Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani was everywhere. He, at the darkest times, he was the guy who was out front. He never backs down, and I think it would be a good message to the world. Have Rudy Giuliani, a Secretary of State, first of all, he's smart, he's articulate, knows what he's talking about. But he would also show toughness, and he would show his understanding of international issues, not just the book knowledge, but his own business experience and just being a smart guy. He would be an outstanding Secretary of State. If I can go back to what you were saying before about people who are getting shots at, one person that I know very well is General Flynn. I've been on the Intelligence Committee, Homeland Security Committee. General Flynn was the person who came in, I guess, 2.5 years ago to warn us about ISIS. This is at a time when the administration said that there was no more Islamic threat, or they were playing it down. He was telling us that privately, and whenever he was telling us privately, he was telling the president a lot more. Then he went public about 6 months after that, and the president was still saying that ISIS was the JV, that ISIS, because he didn't want to admit that we were losing and that Islamist terrorism was gaining. General Flynn, if we had listened to him, there'd be thousands of people alive today. There wouldn't have the beheadings, you wouldn't have the burnings, and you wouldn't have had that caliphate established. So I think Mike Flynn is just a tremendous choice for that job.
Oh, he's just a terrific human being, and he was kind of a whistleblower on what Obama was selling to the American people.
Absolutely.
And they didn't like that. Some of the elites in the media who report on national security, like Ignatius from the Washington Post, David Ignatius, had this concern about Giuliani. Let's listen.
It's a little hard for me to imagine Rudy Giuliani as Secretary of State because he tends to run hot. At least in these years since he's been at the center of public life. He's very emphatic in the comments he makes during the campaign. When I try to think about him at state, I have trouble. In some ways, it's even harder to imagine him as Director of National Intelligence.
So he does a lot of reporting and writing on national intelligence. What do you think he's getting at?
That Rudy Giuliani would be too tough. I mean, here it is. They're criticizing a potential Secretary of State because he was too emphatic. What do we want? Some wimpy guy going around apologizing to the rest of the world? That's what I like about Rudy. He is emphatic, and he's smart. His brain's behind it, but he has the intelligence, the intellect, and then he's tough and he's emphatic. But really, only among the elite would you hear a potential Secretary of State being criticized because he's emphatic. I mean, again, if he was hand-holding and saying, America is not really the best and we have to apologize for this or that, they'd say that he's broad-minded, he's enlightened, that he has a great view of the world. So, no, listen, thank God Donald Trump is not listening to any of those people.
No, I think it's so refreshing. What do you make of the dressing down of the reporters behind closed doors yesterday? Do you think that was wise? Do you think that just antagonizes them more? What do you think?
I don't know if it was wise, but it was great. And by the way, I can tell you 10,000 mistakes that Donald Trump has made since he announced his candidacy for president. But he beat 16 people and he's president of the United States. So what we consider mistakes end up being positives for him. But whether or not it was a mistake, I think they had it coming. They hide behind the First Amendment in that, the First Amendment protects the press. It also protects pornographers and it protects people who burn the American flag. Just because you're protected by it doesn't mean you're sacrosanct. And I think that they throw themselves in the arena in that they attack and they criticize and they pontificate. And if you go back at them at all, somehow you're anti-First Amendment. So I love the fact that he's not taking any nonsense from them. And the fact that he called off the meeting with the New York Times, I think that's terrific. That to me is just a liberal rag. I can't stand them. And why we keep accommodating them and treating them as if there's some sort of royalty is beyond me. So, no, Donald, keep it up with them. Let them have it. I love it.
And I have to say, Congressman King, that when reporters are reporters and not advocates, that's fine. It's fine to ask tough questions. It's fine to be, a reportorial check and balance on people in power in both parties. The problem with this press is that they have been relentlessly unfair. And in their approach was rejected, I think, by so many Americans who saw it as all biased. And I think people are tuning them out a lot. A lot of people are.
Again, it's just anecdotal, but I've seen it since the election. First of all, my district on Long Island, Barack Obama carried it twice. Donald Trump won it by 5 points, so that says something. And it's a district, it's 35% minority, and it's a plurality of Democrats. Mm-hmm. These were rank-and-file people on the grounds who resented and rejected the media during the campaign. Since the election, like I was in the diner this morning actually meeting with a local Democrat, and people are coming up, and what they're talking about is how they're almost laughing at it now. How whatever Donald Trump does, the media criticizes him. So it has no impact. Whatever impact or shock value the media could have had, they've lost it. And it's just assumed that whatever Trump does, they're going to criticize it. So he's really gotten the best of them. He really has. And now, listen, I have no problem with tough questions at all. But when all of the tough questions are going at Trump and not at Hillary Clinton, then that's a bad deal. Or when, for instance, to diverge a bit, but not so much, Keith Ellison right now is being mentioned to be chairman of the Democratic National Committee. I know him personally. I get along with him. He's a member of CARE. CARE was named as a co-conspirator in the largest terrorist money laundering case in the history of the United States. Nobody is asking him to resign from that.
Right.
No one is asking him to step down. Meanwhile, I find something that some guy says that Jeff Sessions may have said 40 years ago
as a joke.
Yeah. And that's considered to be disqualifying.
Hey,
so that's hypocrisy.
No, and Congressman King, you know what? One of the more, I think, biased and tainted organizations, now the FBI doesn't even use them anymore for hate crime statistics, is the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Oh, my God.
I'm sure they name you, they name me, they name all these people on this anti-Muslim hit list that they do. And it's the Islamophobia Watch or whatever. And they put people on for just saying we should have a tough and aggressive foreign policy, or that we should make sure that we vet people coming into the United States. Then you're a hater. But that Southern Poverty Law Center it went from perhaps having great intention to do good things, and I think it's just embarrassed itself. I don't think, they're cited by the New York Times, Washington Post, et cetera, as the gospel on everything.
And just like here, they treat them as a Muslim civil rights organization instead of being a co-conspirator in a terrorist case. But also, as far as, again, when it comes to Islamist terrorism, the reality is we are going to have surveillance in the Muslim community, as you do any time a criminal group is coming from a certain type of people, whether it's Irish, Italians, Catholics, Jews, whatever. If I'm looking for somebody from the Jewish Defense League, you're not going to be, going to the Ku Klux Klan. I mean, you go where you believe the threat is coming from. So to say we're not going to monitor, we're not going to do what Ray Kelly did with the NYPD in New York City is wrong. We should be surveilling Muslim communities and neighborhoods. And just similarly, the people coming from terrorist-dominated countries should be extremely vetted, and I don't see how we can vet anybody coming from Syria because there's no records to vet them against.
But apparently the New York Times meeting is back on. That just crossed the wire, so now Trump is meeting. This is on again, off again with the New York Times, but apparently they are meeting with the New York Times today, according to my staff. And then the New Yorker is reporting. Yeah, the New Yorker, though, is reporting on a separate matter that Romney is, quote, desperately wants to be Secretary of State in the Trump administration.
Donald Trump said that to the media yesterday in those meetings that Romney desperately wants to be Secretary of State.
So what about that, Congressman King?
Again, I would defer to Donald Trump. He's putting the administration together, and if he feels that Mitt Romney will work for him, that's Donald Trump's decision. I've come to have a great regard for his judgment, and it's his team he's putting it together. Whether or not you may agree with this person or that person, he's going to be the manager of the team, the captain of the team, the boss of the team, whatever you want to call it. And if he thinks it's going to work, then it's fine with me.
What are you guys doing for Thanksgiving? What's your plan? What are you doing?
Actually, I'm going over to my daughter's house. It'll be my son, my daughter, my grandchildren, my wife, my sister. No, it'll be a good time. And tonight I'm going to the Barclays Center to see Notre Dame is going to play the winner of the. I guess I didn't even see who they're playing. I guess it's Texas they're playing tonight.
Texas,
anyway,
UT, I think. Yeah, fantastic. That sounds like a lot of fun. Well, you have a wonderful Thanksgiving with your family, Congressman King. Thanks for sharing some time with us today.
And we hope to see you around a lot.
All right. We'll check back with you after the holiday. We'll take a break. Congressman Peter King here on the Laura Ingraham Show. Don't go away. Let's go to Ann in New Jersey, line 3 here on the Laura Ingraham Show. Hope everybody's going to have a happy Thanksgiving with family or friends or whoever your family is. And so we have an extended family. I'm going to be with some friends and enjoying it. Always love Thanksgiving. Ann, go ahead.
Thank you, Laura. You too. You have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
I think it's a brilliant strategy, him going behind closed doors with the media. It's like no different than the employer, taking his employee behind closed doors and saying, you're fired for doing a lousy job.
No.
The media...
I see what you're saying.
Right?
That's pretty funny. Yeah. Well, the faces in the room must have been precious. I mean, just to have been there to see the faces, the media faces falling to the... They thought they were going to get, I don't know, did they think they were going to get tchotchke?
Some of them are really upset. This
really
New
upset.
Yorker piece, they're saying, I'm emotionally effing upset and I'll never get over this. This is outrageous. I mean, the quotes are hilarious.
They're emotional. These are the same people who need the therapy dogs every time they lose an election. I think they've been upset since Trump won. That's the truth. They're upset because they were exposed in their bias and they were wrong and they haven't gotten over that. You're listening to your healthy radio addiction.